is in the book of Ruth. Ruth, who married Boaz. In Ruth chapter 1, we read that an Israelite called Elimelech, Ruth 1:2, with his wife Naomi, left Israel because there was a famine and went into the land of Moab and remained there. And there his two sons married women from Moab. One was Ruth and the other was Orpah. And then Elimelech, the father, died, and his two sons also died. Finally, it was Naomi, the widow, plus her two daughters-in-law that were left. Those daughters-in-law had no children, Ruth and Orpah. And finally, Naomi decides to go back to her home country and tells her daughters-in-law in Ruth chapter 1, verse 8, go return to your mother's house, and may the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with me. And may the Lord grant you to find rest, and maybe you'll find husbands there. And initially they said, no, both of them, we'll return with you to your people. Ruth 1 verse 10, both Ruth and Orpah said that. But Naomi said, return my daughters, why don't you back to, because I don't have any more children to be born, to be your husbands. And I'm too old now to have a husband, to have a son, to marry you. So are you going to wait till I have sons and their sons grow up, even if I get married again? No, it's hard for me. So the thought of, that I won't get a husband is what she put before them. You won't get a husband if you come back with me to Israel. And initially, Orpah and Ruth, it says they lifted up their voices and they wept. Oh, we have to leave you, our dear mother-in-law. They looked so loving. But we read, Orpah kissed her mother-in-law and went back to Moab. Ruth clung to her and said, her mother said, see, your sister-in-law's gone back to her people and her gods. You can also go, you'll find a husband there. And Ruth said, please don't ask me to leave you. I don't want a husband. I want the Lord. Where Ruth 1:16, your God will be my God, and your people will be my people. Where you die, verse 17, I'll die. There I'll be buried. And nothing but death will part you and me. She was devoted, first of all, to the Lord. She didn't want to go back. And that one single decision, that I want the Lord more than a husband, is what made her a very blessed woman. You read later on in the last two verses of Ruth that she became the great grandmother of David. Amazing. She married Boaz, who had a son called Obed, whose son was Jesse, the father of David. Amazing. And you read in Matthew chapter 1, she's in that line of genealogy of Jesus. She was the great grandmother of David. How did that happen? A Moabite coming in this line, and Jesus choosing that line because of this wonderful wife, that Ruth was, and faithful to the Lord, even though her husband had died, and a wonderful daughter-in-law that she was to a mother-in-law. It's very rare to find godly daughters-in-law who will appreciate a godly mother-in-law and value her. There are bad mothers-in-law, I know plenty of them in the world. Most of them are probably bad. But you're very fortunate, my dear sister, if you have a godly mother-in-law. Sometimes you may not appreciate it. I've seen enough mothers-in-law in the world to see how daughters-in-law suffer. And sometimes you can take a godly mother-in-law like Naomi for granted. Ruth did not. She valued and appreciated her mother-in-law, and so she became a godly wife later on to Boaz. Wonderful example.